the Nuggets win the NBA Finals. It was a really interesting game 6. There was a little bit of a LA Fitness run in there for a second where nobody could hit a shot. I saw everybody talking about that on Twitter. That was pretty funny. But all in all, I mean, I think the better team won. I think we both picked the Nuggets on the last episode, so it wasn't that big of a surprise. I did think maybe Miami would get another game, but it really once the Nuggets won both of those games in Miami, you knew it was over, because like if the Heat can't even win on their home floor in front of that home crowd, you knew that it was definitely going to be tough for them to come back and win. But Jokic is just he played incredible down the stretch of that game. Played incredible the entire playoffs. Almost averaged a 30-point triple double for the entire playoffs. Only missed out on a couple assists the last couple games. Brought him back under 10, but I'm sure he doesn't care. If you saw all the really, like, I enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was good basketball. I thought it was solid hoops. I think that some people might have like overreacted to, I know it was a 5-game series, but I think the playoffs as a whole were so good that it might have felt a little bit like anticlimactic, but I do think still the best team ended up winning. And I think regardless of who the Nuggets would have played, they would have had a really good chance. I mean, there was a reason they were the number 1 seed in the West. And, the West was really tough this year. So that's not a small feat. But yeah, congrats to the Nuggets. Congrats to Denver getting their first ring. Shortens the list of teams that don't have a ring a little bit. Hopefully the Grizzlies can be next on there. But definitely was good to see them kind of get their first ring. And we're going to talk about kind of what that means for the league as a whole, and kind of how it seems like there's a shift kind of happening in terms of the teams that are winning these championships compared to like the 2010s and stuff like that. And we're going to get into that in a little bit too.
Yeah. Personally, for me, I like teams winning their first championship. I guess it's part of because I'm a Grizz fan. Well, we're Grizz fans, so it's kind of like we ain't won yet, but like it's cool to see the team actually win their first one. Because I mean, we've seen the same teams win it before, so it's kind of like like we're used to seeing like the Lakers and like not the Warriors, but like like for teams like Toronto and Milwaukee and Denver to win it in the last 3-4 years is cool. Like just because it's like again like you see the fan base, like the fan base is cool about it, and like you kind of gives you hope for what they do, especially Denver. I say Denver and even Milwaukee kind of give you hope, because I even said on Twitter yesterday, like because I think shout out to Parker Fleming said something about because it being a homegrown championship, because how they had everybody, not everybody together, but the core guys together, and I was just like the Grizz are next, and obviously who knows, but I mean I'm confident, just trying to speak into existence, but for the Nuggets, man, like I've the thing with the Nuggets for me in terms of the only question I had about them as a contender is the defense. Like that was really the biggest thing for me.
For sure.
If I'm not mistaken, if I pull up the stat, basically they were the 4th team in the last 40 years to win an NBA title without being like a top defense. So it wasn't like I was like just hating on them, but like their defense just was never consistent enough for me to be like, man, like I worried if they got in the wrong matchup, they could lose it. Not saying that made me not think they could continue. I always thought they were, but their defensive performance really was the impressive thing to me throughout the playoffs. And really just they did a lot of stuff that championship teams usually do on a run. Like their poise throughout games and their timely playmaking and shot making was always something that showed it to me, especially when they started playing like the Lakers and really later in that Phoenix series. They really like it didn't matter who it was, like timely shot. It came from whether it was Jokic or Jamal, Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, Braun. Like they were just like everybody
Yeah,
was locked.
Christian Brown had a really good game in there too.
Yeah,
KCP hit some big shots. It was really just like an all-around team effort, and I think that's why I did like this Nuggets team, is because it really felt like it was just a full team effort. Obviously, you got Jokic, and he's the MVP, and probably you can argue who it is, but right now, he just won Finals MVP. He's got the title of best in the world right now. I feel like it's that's kind of how it works right now. I think that's what Giannis said last year after Steph won. hey, people call me the best in the world when I won Finals MVP. They call Steph when he wins it. So I think it's not a stretch to say Jokic is the best in the world right now. And but I still feel like just the team as a in general played so well. And I like that you mentioned their defense because I was looking at it. And Miami only scored, like Miami had struggled on offense a lot in the regular season. Obviously, they got hot in the playoffs, but throughout the regular season, they weren't a great offensive team. And that kind of showed up in this too. But I do want to credit their defense a lot because, especially in today's NBA, when you're holding teams under 100 consistently, I think they held them under 500 in 4 out of the 5 games. So it was basically like they played their best they could on defense, and I think that was really the difference in the series. Miami definitely was going to be a good, solid defensive team too, but I think that Denver's offense was just so much better, even with Miami playing great defense that they did. And it was just impossible to stop Jokic. And then Jamal Murray had some good games, and then Aaron Gordon, didn't talk about him yet. Aaron Gordon had a really good series. That's a dude that a couple years ago I was looking at as possibly a Grizzly, and I think some people were like kind of iffy on that whenever he was leaving Orlando. But I think there's a lot of people now that would look back on it and say that they would have taken him, especially on this team when you see what they really need to, and needing a guy that can play like the three and the four, kind of like that, like he does for them. So it's it's definitely like congratulations to the Nuggets. I think that they had a really good season, really good team, and I think a lot of people talk about like their path to the championship, and that's going to be like a narrative. But at the end of the day, you play who's in front of you, and
Exactly.
you play who's in front of you, and that's what they did, and they beat everybody who was in front of them, and they got it done. So, like I said, congratulations to the Nuggets. Congratulations to Jokic on Finals MVP. But I do feel like there's a lot that is going to continue to show up the next couple years, just based on the way that teams are winning championships now, for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Nuggets. It's kind of like, again, like you said, with their offense, their offense was top tier because again, when you have an all time player like Jokic and then a good player in Murray, I think that kind of they set the tone for everything else in terms of ball movement. But yeah, like for them, it's like again, you play who's in front of you. Like everybody wants to talk about the title and things of nature. Like I've talked about before, you have to have some type of luck. And while they had some luck in terms of being healthy the whole year, I think they only had a lot. They didn't have anybody miss a game for injury in the playoffs, and like they were healthy throughout the majority of the year. That's the type of luck you need, but also like good matchups and just they got the luck, but they made their own luck because they did get the 1 seed. So when you get the 1 seed, you get favorable matchups usually, and they got even more favorable matchups because lower seeds won, and 2 out of the 3 rounds or something like that. But basically, they didn't play against. I'm not gonna say they didn't play against nobody good, but they played against teams that that were better matchups for them, and end up playing a Miami team that they just had to play, who's an 8 seed, and went on a historic run. But like because people are like trying to say Miami didn't really deserve it, but like it's a game of matchups. Like you can't be mad at Denver for beating team who's in front of them. Like it's just like that's part of it. Like it's always gonna be part of it. You know what I mean? And like they're still champions at the end of the day. You still got to play the games. Like even if they are the favorite in that, or they were the favorite in that series, they still have to play the game. So yeah, no, congrats to Denver. I think again they really are. And the thing is, they're set up too. They're still young, not young, but like everybody's in their late 20s versus early 30s. So you
It's
still have a lot
honestly, I
of
would say they're better than being young. It's like they're all in their primes. Like the main
yeah.
guys are like hitting their prime age, and even like MPJ is starting to, I wouldn't say he's in his prime yet, but he's starting to like get to that point where he's been in the league for a couple years and he's getting a little bit older. So it's like
Yeah.
I think they're hitting their stride kind of as a team,